everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Chai Time. I'm your host, Alina Minhas, and today we're going to talk about LLMs, which are large language models. And I have a really special guest with me today. Everybody, please welcome Lautaro Pereira. He's from Argentina, and he has a really impressive background. For everybody who doesn't know, he is only 19 years old and he is already a full stack developer. He started programming at just 10 years old, and he also has worked on some really creative projects that are AI related. Like two of his apps that he worked on have been featured as product of the day at Product Hunt. These are Infinity AI, Choosy Chat, and he has worked on all the other sort of creative things as well, like YouTube channel. He has his own YouTube channel, and for all those things that you guys listen to, I think so. We have a lot of burning questions that we want to ask him. So we're gonna just dive right into today's episode. So, the topic that we have today is how LLMs are transforming education. And before we just talk about the topic, we just want to know a bit more about you, Lautaro. So, can you share your journey with us? How did you get started in the world of education? How did you get into AI, technology? And how do you think LLMs are going to transform education?
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. Hi everyone. My name is Lautaro, and yeah, as Helena said, I started learning programming when I was like 10 years old, and I've been learning um, since ever. So um, I I've been learning for a long time, but I started working like in 2019 in more like real projects, and basically I've been trying to focus on full stack development with Node.js, that is a framework for Vue. And in 2024, this company that was in Y Combinator,
Mhm.
they contact me to work with them. This company was Infinity AI, basically a platform where you can generate video with bypassing a script with famous people. And I was just in that project, I was just working on the web app for user to use the app with a UI, with a visual UI. So they
Okay.
launched the web app on Product Hand, and they got top five product of the day.
That's really
And then
interesting.
after, yeah, um, yeah, but I will not like get too much credit from that project because the
Yeah.
AI was from these other people, my coworkers.
Okay.
So, but yeah, this product got product five
So,
of the day.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Lautaro, my question to you would be, how do you think, first of all, like, could you explain what LLMs are in a very, simple terms for that, for our audience as well, for people who are not very technical, and could you tell us how is it impacting education? How can it transform education more?
Yeah. Basically, an LLM. I think like for a simple explanation of this is a way to communicate with a computer
Mm-hmm.
using like natural language that we use with people,
Yeah.
and getting a response from the computer based on that natural language that we're talking. And this is like you can tell the difference between what is on LLM and what is not, because if you ask um, something like, for example, where can I learn um, programming, for example, to Google, you will get just results based on keywords. But for an LLM, it will interpret, it will try to understand your question with your words, and it will respond to that question based on um, a natural conversation. So
Okay.
I will say that that's a
Yeah.
simple definition of an LLM.
Okay. And how do you think LLMs are going to make a change in education? How can they change the education game? How can they, transform it?
Well, LLM makes a change in education because everybody nowadays, everybody with an LLM basically an AI chatbot or something like that, they can um, ask questions, ask a lot of questions all the time about any topic, and they will get personalized responses based on their questions. So um, nowadays, if you are learning something and you have a doubt about something specific, you can ask a new question about that, and it's like having a one-to-one teacher the whole time. So that's a
That's
huge
really cool. Yeah.
difference. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's a
really
huge
cool. And
difference to watch a like just a course or read a documentation, because it's like you have the docs of the programming language or whatever you're learning, and you also have a teacher,
yeah, you're
and that's
interacting with them. Yeah.
yeah, you're interacted with this like virtual teacher.
Yeah, and that's really cool. I think that you can interact with somebody in such a way, and it's not a teacher, it's not a person, it's LLM, and they're so well at teaching kids at playing such a big role at their learning. What do you think about language barriers? Do you think LLMs can help students overcome them when it comes to education?
Well, an LLM, the way it works, you can basically ask anything to an LLM in any language, and it doesn't matter if, because you can think that if you ask something in Spanish, it will respond to you based on information that was in Spanish before, but it will actually respond to you in information that was in any language. It doesn't matter the language. So basically, with an LLM, you don't have a barrier like a stop something is stopping you because of your
Yeah.
language. You can learn in any language,
Yeah.
and yeah, basically language is not a barrier anymore
Anymore. Yeah.
for learning.
Yeah, I think so. LLMs also make education very inclusive for the students. So if a student has a language barrier, if a student has any sort of issues with learning when it comes to those sort of things, I think so anybody can learn via LLMs, and it would be a very inclusive sort of environment. So, when it
Exactly.
comes to research, when it comes to academic writing, what do you think the students should rely? Do you think students should rely on LLMs, or do you think that LLMs are good, but you should need some sort of guidance when it comes to it? You shouldn't rely too much on these sort of models.
Yeah, I feel like for research and academic writing and stuff like more um like specific and important, you can use LLMs, but you have to be super careful, and for this type of things that are like more serious, you have to give instructions that are more specific, because and double check the information, because for these kind of things, if you don't check the information, sometimes AI will give you like just random information that the AI will invent at the moment. So yeah, I will recommend to double check the information, and also make sure the prompts are um, very specific, because this way you can basically make sure it is giving you correct information and not random information.
Yeah. Do you think there might be some issues that may arise with it if you rely too much on AI, if you rely too much on these sort of things?
Yeah, the thing is, um, you can use AI for many things and it will be great, but sometimes when for certain types of tasks, for example, for building, for academic writing and stuff, it could be so repetitive and basic with some of the responses. So you can avoid this type of generic responses by getting a more specific prompt and trying to retouch this. But I will maybe get started with a response from an LLM, but modifying it based on what you know.
Okay. Um, as a student, when you were learning how to do coding, programming, these sort of things, do you think there was a difference back then and now with the help of LLMs, it's easier for students to get to some sort of to reach out to more knowledge and to reach out to more materials? Do you think LLMs has made that easier for us?
With LLMs, yes, you can have like um more personalized experience, but one problem that I found as a teacher, because I teach JavaScript. I have a student of JavaScript, and
Okay.
what I noticed is that even with LLMs and ChatGPT and stuff, they still need, some people still need a teacher, a one-to-one teacher, because for example LLMs will give you something super generic, and if you ask LLMs for example for exercises, sometimes they are all the time they are the same and they are not useful. So it's like, yes, you can get a personalized learning experience with LLMs, but it really depends on the topic, how good is
Yeah.
the result or not.
So would you really recommend using LLMs that much, or would you be like, okay, you can use it, but don't rely on it too much because students sometimes use it a lot, and that way there's plagiarism, there's these sort of things. So I think so. You're saying that okay, use LLMs, but for your own good, do your own research as well, right?
Yeah, you can ask, for example, I don't know, give me a path to learn about this thing. um, but you have to make sure you ask a lot of questions about this, about this, about this, about like all of the specific things, because if not, you're gonna learn something with a lot of gaps if you are completely based on what the LLM says.
True, I think so too. I think a lot of the times when you use these models and you're asking them a questions, they just give you some random answers as well, and that is a bit, it's very repetitive as well. And you're like, okay, to do, and then they're like, not that helpful when it comes to that. So for students, we would recommend you guys to not rely too much on it and do your own research as well. Um, everybody keeps saying that LLMs can make education very personalized. It can make learning a very personalized experience. What's your opinion on that?
um, well, you can um, like personalize the experience with LLMs and stuff, but I feel like to make it work, um, you need a person with enough experience, basically reviewing this information and instructions given by the LLM. It's like you always need a person who knows about the topic, an expert, um,
Yeah,
to be able to tell you if the what the LLM is saying is useful or not.
yeah, to double check it in that regard, right?
Exactly.
To make sure that okay, this is the right direction I'm going to. So, as a person who teaches programming and as a person who has had experience in these sort of like this field as well, what would you say? Do you think LLMs in the future are going to be much more, efficient, and they're going to bring more changes? What do you think about that?
I want to believe that the LLMs are gonna get better, and one day you're gonna be able to ask for exercises or or for example learning paths about something, and it will give you a good result. Um, but I honestly think that that's gonna take time, because they are training new LLMs with LLM based information.
Okay.
So I find it, even the most advanced models, the newest versions of GPT and Gemini and stuff, they still give you really bad exercises. For example, if you ask it for exercises about like JavaScript and stuff, they give you really bad exercises, and
Yeah.
I don't see an improvement in
Okay.
with newer versions.
Okay.
So maybe if someone makes an LLM with specific instructions to train it the right way for learning and stuff, maybe we can see something better. But as for now, I will not rely on LLMs for a learning path, a personalized learning experience.
Okay. As we talked about earlier, that we can use LLMs that can make learning a bit more efficient, interactive, and that sort of thing. Do you think that if the educators who are using, right now they're not incorporating LLMs in their education and their way of teaching, do you think if they incorporate it, it's gonna be a benefit, or do you think that there are limits to that? They shouldn't do it, should or shouldn't do it. As an educator yourself, what would you recommend?
Well, as an educator, I can say that sometimes I use LLMs for example, find an explanation more in detail for some topic. Let's say, for example, that I'm teaching about promises in JavaScript. I will ask an LLM for that information, but what I find is, for example, for creating the content or creating the structure of the content that I'm gonna make for teaching, um, I will not use an LLM because it will give you something not useful.
Okay,
So it's like a tool, but not something main.
okay.
It's something
So
that you can skip.
yeah. So, as a person who also does programming, do you think that people nowadays can do programming easier by using these tools? Sometimes back in the days it was difficult. You had to go through these redundant sort of like steps to do coding and these things, and now you can just ask an LLM to do it, and then you can modify it later on. Do you think that's something that has happened?
Yeah, I find it super useful. I have to say that it's super useful. Um, but the thing is that for it to be useful, you need to know what you're asking for. Because, for example, I have my student that is learning JavaScript, and he basically can solve the problems with LLMs because he doesn't know how to ask for the solution. Um,
Yeah,
so it's like an LLM can help you to save time with something that you already know how to do, but you don't want to do from scratch, rather than
yeah.
help you to do something that you don't know how to do.
That's I think that's the change that has occurred in the recent years as well. That people are relying on it just for these sort of redundant tasks, not completely relying on it. They just give the instruction. They are the ones who are the main thing, and then these LLMs and these sort of tools are the ones that give you some sort of something to brainstorm about as well. Do you think they are more intelligent for them to be able to give you really good ideas, or do you think that they are not that creative yet?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so do you think that these large language models that we use, do you think that they are really efficient in order to give you some creative ideas or for you to brainstorm, or do you think that they're not at that level of being able to really give you something creative, and you have to be the person who gives them instructions?
I think right now you have you have to be the person who gives instructions, because when you're expecting something creative from an LLM, no matter if it's Gemini, GPT, or whatever, um, you don't find really creative solutions for whatever is your question. So I think that creativity is still in the people. Um, Maybe this is not like that for image generation, because image generation is more creative. I feel like LLMs are more creative with image generation, but at least for what is text and chats and stuff, yes, you have to
Yeah.
be the one in charge of creativity.
True, I think so too. I think so. It's going to take a little bit more time for them to be able to really give you some good answers, because even if you use GPT, as you said, if you use them, sometimes it gives you such answers that you're like, oh, okay, that's really stupid, I guess. And you go like, okay, that's something where I have to be the one who gives them the instructions, or I have to be the one who has to do your research. So, fingers are crossed, I think so. Maybe in the future we'll see it. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, yeah. Right now, you can tell that it took choose an answer from Stack Overflow, for example, to respond to your question, and it's not really like something that someone thought before.
Yeah. Anybody who wants to ask us a question can just write it in the chat box and we would be happy to answer you guys. The next question that I have for you is that people say, and we also like listen about it, we hear about it, we see it as well, that LLMs have this advantage of giving instant feedback to you. Do you think that it can really help in tracking the student's performance or really giving some good feedback so the student can learn better?
In terms of feedback, actually, I think it's super useful. Um,
Okay.
in in a lot of contexts, if you're doing something, let's
Mm-hmm.
say, I don't know, writing code or writing a document, for example, your resume or something, and you ask the AI for feedback based on the content that you're working on, you will get something super useful.
That's true. I think so too. I think that people nowadays are using it in many creative ways as well. People are using it for writing. They're using it to, as you said, get feedback on their resumes, things that they used to have some sort of confusion about. But now with LLMs, they can really get that sort of perspective from them as well.
Yeah, especially if you instead of allowing the LLM to replace your content or whatever your work, instead of doing that, asking the LLM for feedback and deciding you yourself deciding about the feedback from the LLM. I find that super useful because you can tell if the feedback is good or not.
Yeah, true. Do you think that these sort of tools are helpful for students who have really difficult sort of difficulty learning as well, and they have really different needs as well? Because a lot of students they have issues regarding reading, they have issues. Do you think in the future there would be an LLM which teachers can use that would be helpful to each student according to their individual needs?
I think so. I don't see that super far from nowadays. Maybe in the future, in a couple of months or in 1 year, we're gonna see that because I feel like something obvious, and we just need like some kind of um, voice around to tell about this idea. And when people start using this, they're gonna be like, oh, actually, this is useful, and they're gonna start using it more, and they're gonna share it with the rest of the people, and it's gonna be something normal in the future.
Yeah. Do you think that when it comes to accessibility, a lot of students do not have things, accessible things, and they do not have a lot of things at their, that they cannot access as well. Like, let's say that students in areas that are, not that privileged, they're not able to get to school and they do not have proper education. Do you think LLMs can transform education for them as well, for students who do not have resources to have that?
Yeah, definitely. LLMs can not only help people without access to, like, for example, going to school or going to college, or, for example, people who can't afford a teacher, but also, for example, I'm thinking about, like, for example, blind people who
Yeah.
can't read a book, like read any book and stuff. um, you can, for example, use the OpenAI voice chat, and it works really well. You can ask him a lot of things, and it will respond to you with a very human voice. So
Yeah.
um, AIs and LLMs definitely opens the world for everybody, and it makes it super accessible. It makes knowledge accessible to everyone.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you have like any sort of your experience that you went through as well, that when it came to learning, do you think that it was different back then, but now you also can learn through LLMs, or do you have some sort of experience that you want to share with us when it came to LLMs and you were the person who got a lot of knowledge via LLMs.
Well, I usually don't study directly from LLMs, but for example, one thing that I use LLM for is um, for getting my. I was planning to go to the US soon,
Okay.
and I didn't know anything about getting a visa and whatever like the requirements for going to the US. And I
Okay.
basically learned everything by asking LLMs,
Okay.
asking what do I need, what is this, what is this, what is this, asking one question next to another one.
Yeah.
Um, you can learn, become some kind of expert in one topic just by asking one question next to another one.
Yeah.
So um,
I
I
think
find
so.
it like
It's Yeah, I think it's very interactive as well. Just as you mentioned, ChatGPT, that how OpenAI really talks to people as well, and it feels very interactive. You're not just talking to a model, large language model. You're also talking to somebody that who can interact with you well. And I think so. In learning, that's something that's very important. We have a question from somebody. Um, Okay. So somebody's asking, what about teaching something that is not hard science, but let's say manners or ethics? Different cultures have different traditions. I think so. As you said, when you were applying to go to US, you didn't know much about that place. So I think so. When it comes to cultures or traditions, you can really ask them about what certain thing is in different culture, and they can respond to you with how much they know. What's your opinion on
yeah,
that?
um,
About that?
it can give you like a starting point, but you have to check the information. Um, for example, if I will ask about Argentina, um,
Yeah.
my wife is from the US, and I was asking a lot of questions about Argentina, but for her. And what I noticed is that a lot of the information was correct, but it was outdated.
Okay.
So, but it gives you the information of where to find the correct information. So maybe the information was wrong, but at least you get the sources to find the right information.
Yeah. I think so that that's where this sort of like cultural difference comes in, and when I think so when they become more efficient, maybe they can help you with that, but do not rely on it too much. I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I will not trust an LLM when asking about like the culture of a country or something, because it can mess it up pretty bad.
Yeah, so you guys heard him. He's saying that you shouldn't rely on it because it can really mess it up and people might not understand your culture, maybe your traditions, and it can misinterpret it, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
So,
have to really double check the information.
yeah. Because I don't think so, because as a person from a different culture, I would say if somebody asks me something, I'm gonna really get into the details of it. But as a person who doesn't know much about it, I think so LLMs are going to just talk about the surface level things and people might not understand it well. Maybe something might be offensive, maybe.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Before we move on to the last question and before we wrap it up, what do you think? What is your opinion on this whole topic? Do you think that LLMs are going to really have a big impact in education and it is going to really change learning for good?
Yeah, I think all of this movement of the AI will have a big impact on education, and you can already see that is a fact, because every education platform and even at schools in the US, they check your um, your assignments with a tool for checking if you did it with AI or not. So
Yeah,
just by this fact, you can already tell that the AI is making a huge change in education. So it's just a matter of time until they start using AI um, for good reasons with the right tools and so on. Um, it's like
yeah.
they
As
need
you
to find
mentioned,
how to use AI for
yeah.
education.
Yeah, as you mentioned that people are using AI for academic stuff. I think so. AI is being used either way. It's used by students to make their assignments or write their assignments, and teachers also use it to make sure that there's no plagiarism. So I think so. AI is being used either way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
They are
that's
all
that's
using AI at the end of the day.
yeah, to detect plagiarism and to also write the assignment. So I think so AI is being used in education right now as we talk about it, and that is a very transformative phase, I would say. And any key points, any key takeaways that you would like to share about today's episode that we had?
um one thing that I would like to mention as something important for these learning things is that um we'll see something really interesting when people start creating LLMs based on knowledge for certain topics. For example, if you get an LLM but only based on information about the JavaScript documentation, for example. Um, right now we're not seeing that too often. It's like we only have LLMs for general purposes and not trained with specific data. But when you train an LLM with specific data, it becomes more useful for a certain topic. So once we start seeing that on on applications, it's gonna be a huge change in education too.
Yeah, I think so. That's really important. That's a really good insight as well. And thank you so much for joining us today, Lautaru. We had really great, interesting discussion with you. Everybody had their questions as well. Thank you so much for answering the questions. And before we go and before we end this episode, everybody please check out the Opus website. Our pre-sale is live, and I hope everybody has a good day. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.